Hey everybody, Sheila France here. We've had a lot of questions from parents on how to deal with our son ATL 347 and his access to the web. He's 9 years old. He has a YouTube channel. He does a lot of Minecraft, and so yeah, the wild webs are pretty unfiltered, and so we had to do a little bit of troubleshooting and some trial and error in order to really figure out the best way to filter and monitor the content that he has access to. What I wanted to show you just real quickly is how we did it. We have a Macintosh system at our house, and there were a number of different steps we had to go through in order to do that. And the first step we had to take was to set up a user ID for him on the computer. So he had his own parental controlled uh, user ID with a password, and kids are very excited about passwords that he would log on to. And then once he logged in, I had a password, uh, my wife had a password, and so he didn't have access to the applications we didn't want him to have access to, and he didn't have access to websites we didn't want to have access to. In fact, Apple goes so far as to have a sort of a cloud server based on different types of content, explicit content and swear words that it will do a pretty bang up job of filtering out for you. In fact, it does almost too good of a job. It was something we had to monitor. He had to do a report one time on a dam. It was the Hoover Dam, and because of his search for it, it was blocking it. So he came and he asked us, and we had to explain about spelling. But then that really kind of gave us some security in if it was blocking that, then it was managing to block a lot more. Uh, so here's the quick way to kind of go about and set up a monitored ID for them. So if you go underneath the system preferences underneath the Open Apple, you're going to go to something called users and groups. Consider everybody on a computer a user, and then you can define groups like my family, your family. Right now, I'm logged in underneath my wife. You can see Aiden has an account here. You can see that it's managed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up another account so that you can see the process of how we go through and we set up a monitored account. So in order to get access, you have to click on this lock here and unlock it. And it asks you to enter in your password. Don't peek. And don't let your child ever know what your master password is. Otherwise, they can go in, they can change all this. Then once we're here, we're going to hit the plus button. Now, Aiden already has an account, so we're just going to name this after one of our pets. And up here where it says standard user, we're going to change that to managed with parental controls. Tabbing out of this just assigns a simple account name. You can sign them up with an iCloud and a monitored iCloud account, but I'm not going to get into that. That really sort of affects different things. So I'm going to leave that for a different channel at the time, or a different video rather. What I'm going to do right now is just put in their own separate password, and then we're going to hit create user. Now once it's created, you come to this screen here. And then this is how you access the account. And so as long as this lock is open, you can go in here and you can change things. Now that's the important thing. If your child does not have an administrative password, they can't make changes. So they can't go in there and they can't change things. So just for starters, let's change it to a picture. Let's see. I think Nacha would loves the family dog. I think Nacha would love to be a zebra. I think maybe she has zebra dreams. At any time, you can access a child's site and you can reset their password. So they can't change their password and lock you out. As a managed account, you have access to it at all times. And you never want to click on this button here, allow user to administer this computer. No, you want to keep the administrative controls in yours. We have parental controls enabled. So then we're going to open it and we're going to look through all the different settings we can do. This is a great process that Apple does. It's constantly having us enter in our password. It wants to make sure that, hey, you're an adult and that you can use this. So within this we can limit applications that they can use. You can click on Simple Finder. If your child is really new to computing, use Simple Finder. It gets rid of a lot of the excess things that they're probably not going to need. And then limit applications. So let's say, all right, what are we going to limit the applications to? Allow App Store apps. We're just going to say all that for now. So here's the App Store apps. So these are all things you can download from the App Store. I don't see anything in here I'm really worried about. I don't think that's just going to be using AutoCAD, Evernote, eWallet. So let's get out a lot of stuff that we don't necessarily want them using. Hey, maybe Keynote. Who knows? That'd be great. But there are certain things we don't have to worry about. Other apps. We've got some high-end stuff in here. So let's just say we want to limit their access to the App Store. We don't want them downloading apps. Now, they wouldn't be able to download it unless they had a username or password for an Apple ID. If you don't have an Apple ID, you can't do it. But if you wanted to limit it, you can click it off. And then you can go through everything that's on your computer. We have a lot of stuff on our machines. Let's say we don't want them doing mail. Let's say we don't want them doing maps. We don't want them messaging. We definitely don't want them messaging. It's not bad to set it up because even with parental controls, you can monitor who they message to. It is a new world, and eventually they're going to be doing it on a cell phone, so they might as well, while they're really kind of malleable as a child, to go over the importance of how to manage this. So let's just leave that open. We can change it at any time. Go back into the parental controls, through the system, through the users and groups. So you get a control of all of this, which is very exciting. And then we can also do this, and this is very important, the web. It automatically defaults to try to limit access to adult websites automatically. Apple's version of try is really good. I mentioned the thing about DAM, and it filtered that out. Well, they go to a lot more extent, and they're constantly updating it, and they're sending you downloads. It's pretty amazing. So I would say 10 out of 10. It overdoes it, and you're probably going to have to let some websites through just because it's blocking it to be on the safe side. So let's customize it just because we want to let some websites through. For instance, you'd be surprised, pbs.com. There's really nothing on PBS that you're going to find particularly offensive for a child. There is some, I would say, adult content just because of the complexity of it, but there's not swear words. There's not there's not explicit content really on it. But if you were at pbskids.com, well, let's definitely allow that to go through. Let's let pbskids.com be an option on this because there's no issue with that. We know that PBS Kids is going to be pretty good, even if for some reason the Apple algorithm decides that it's going to overcompensate and block something. You can say, if it's coming from PBS Kids, I trust it. Please let it through. Oh, and likewise, let me just click back right there. If you know a site that you definitely don't want them on, let's just say you definitely don't want them on, you can put that in here and it will 100% not allow them on there. So anything that you feel you don't want your child getting to, you can just put it in here and you say, well, that's not really what I want. But like we said, 10 out of 10 times, you're going to be adding sites in here that you know are legitimate sites. All right, so once we're on the web, and this is the same thing here, except you're more, it gives you a lot of stuff. So this is all based on age. It's based on your thing. You can turn everything on and then turn it back off later as your child grows older. People, this is important. Allow joining Game Center multiplayer games. If he's not ready for it, click off it. Can't join any multiplayer games. Allow adding Game Center friends. Let's say we don't want friends. Let's say we haven't had the conversation that there are mean people out there. Let's not get into that yet. Limit mail to allowed contacts. Well, we're going to go through the process of how to set up a mail account for them. It is important. But right now, let's just say we're going to not let them access mail. We're not going to let them access messages, but we can. All right. Time limits. We really like this one with time limits. We had started off with Aiden saying, okay, you get 2 hours a day of computer time. That's it, just 2 hours a day. On the weekend, when it's your time, we're going to jump that up to 4. We want to make sure that he's not sneaking it because we don't lock him in his room at night, so he can sneak out if he want. But between the hours of 11 p.m. and 9 a.m., computer is not going to turn on and you're not going to be able to access it. On the weekends, well, all right, let's just say that we're going to be a little bit more open on the weekends and, it's going to be midnight. This is for a school night, I don't know, Aiden's in bed at 8 o'clock, so I'm saying anytime after 8 until 9 the next morning. Oh, actually, he's up pretty early starting school, so we'll say 8 o'clock the next morning. And then on a weekend, 10 to 7, he can't use it. Okay, so we're going to limit that. And then others, if we had other things we wanted to do, like we don't want him printing. This is a big one. Don't access the built-in camera. We don't know who he's looking for it, but it's here. We can disable changing the password. We don't want him to change the password. If he did change the password, we can always reset it as an administrator, so there's no worry at that point, but you have the control here to limit it. You don't want him printing things. Maybe later on down the road, he's going to print it, but have the conversation. Don't be wasting reams of paper just to print up Minecraft mobs, okay? The strongest function about this is this little button in the corner here. This is the logs button. I'm going to take a little bit of time to explain this. You can have the computer. You don't have to have it. It does it automatically under a parental controlled account. It will log everything they do on the computer. Now, as a parent, you have to go through and you have to read these logs. I suggest you do it with the child. We set it up for a month. Websites visits. If he's tried to access blocked websites, what applications he's used. If he's been on messages, who's he talked to. When a child sees that you have access to these records and you take them through and you say, well, okay, we're giving you this privilege. We want you to know it's monitored. We're monitoring it for your safety. And we all phrase it different ways. I think Liz is going to really kind of go over how we phrased it with Aiden. But if they see that everything that they do is being monitored and maintained, well, that's pretty big. And at that point, they are like, oh, wow, I really shouldn't jump on something. But you do have to go in and you do have to check it. If only at first, the diligence is really important. After that, you don't have to check it as frequently, but if you check it with the child and you sit them down and you talk to them about this, then they realize that you're seeing it. That's a big deterrent for them. They now realize that there's a log of every action they have. They're not going to be so apt to lie or to try to hide something if they know that you can get in there and you can see it. So that's really the most the most powerful bit of the parental control section. Now that we've done this and we've got all the parental controls the way we want it, we're going to jump back into it. And the only other thing we have to do is we have to change our logins. Ordinarily, this will automatically log in. You want to make sure that it's off. And then that way you get into your login screen. The computer restarts, and every time it starts up, every member of the family has to log in. And that's just the way it is. As long as your child does not have your password, he can't change any of his settings. And now that we have monitored settings, when they're in there, you have a log of everything that happens, which is, it's a huge load off your mind. Diligence is really important, but teaching them the benefits of protecting themselves online and knowing that there are people out there, knowing that there's such a thing as cyberbullying, and slowly, while they're impressionable at this age, bringing them up to speed with all that is mischievous, all that is the darker sides of the web, in a lot more kid handling gloves means a lot, and it'll really open up these the ability to kind of expand upon that later on, and that's what we've done. So I'm going to get into in the next webisode here on how to go through and open an email for them. Because once we open an email, we're going to be able to get them on YouTube, and we're going to be able to get them on safety mode. And that's the next step, because it's not just what they have access to on the computer, it's what they have access to online. And a lot of that is they want to go out and they want to watch their favorite YouTubers. Not all those YouTubers have the best language because they're all adults at this point, but there's a lot of really good ones out there. Captain Sparkles really comes to mind right now, and he's kind of really helped Aiden be interested and involved in all of this YouTube channeling that you see if you want to just click on any of these links. So that was it for this one. There's going to be a part 2 and probably a part 3 once we get into the iCloud and things like that. Plus, we'll do a Windows webisode for everybody out there who's on Windows. All right, thank you all for watching. Leave a like as always, and we hope to see you next time. Happy parenting. Bye.